Yeah, welcome back. So in this hopefully short video, we are going to review uh, sequences, properties of sequences, because sequences are something that we will keep on having in the iterative algorithms or in the proof of existence of the optimality in optimization. So sequence xk, let's say where xk is a scalar coming from real number, in more expanded form is like x1 x2, it's a sequence like this, x2 x3 and so on up to some xn and then so on xn plus 1. So this is a sequence. Basically, I mean usually an infinite sequence of numbers. For example, here is a sequence 1 2 3 4, nth number is n followed by n plus 1 and so on. So this is a sequence. It could be anything. So it could, there is no need to have any rule, like it could be 1 minus 2, 1 plus 5, 1 minus 1. There has to be, I mean to say, there could be an infinite sequence like this. I don't know the rule by which this number is generated. But in general, for there is a rule when you generate a sequence, because otherwise, how do you know how do you define the next number in the sequence? So usually there is a rule, has to be a rule when we say a sequence, but that rule need not be very apparent, or a pattern need not be very apparent to you when you look at the sequence. Now, this sequence of scalars shown as xk, we say that it converges to x. If it converges to some x, then we say that this is a convergent sequence. What do I mean by convergent sequence? I mean that there is some capital K given a epsilon greater than 0. You choose this, all right? You choose this epsilon greater than 0. Then accordingly, depending upon this epsilon, depending on this, you will be able to find some constant capital K, such that for all K greater than this capital K, like for example, if K is 100, then it means that all sequence points like 100 onwards, 100, 101, 1000 and so on, for all such K, the distance between xk and k, the difference between the two, the magnitude of the difference between the two is always less than epsilon. So it is within epsilon distance of x, and since epsilon is positive and you can make it as small as possible, it is obvious that the sequence converges to x. So here is a nice convergent sequence, like 1 by 2, 1 by 3, 1 by 4, so on, 1 by n, and this. So in the limit n tending to infinity, this sequence will go to 0. You please by the prove it as defined properly above, choosing a sequence epsilon and then finding corresponding k, and thereby, not just looking at it, but formally do those steps that I told you in the definition. But it's clear that this sequence will go to 0. So a simple way to write this is, when the sequence is converging to x, is to say that this xk goes to 0. Example, in the above sequence, xk went to 0. In general, it may go to x. Now, all sequences need not converge. All right. For example, 1 2 1 2 1 2. I give you a sequence like this. Is it convergent? No, it's not. But interestingly, in it there are two subsequences. If I take alternate 1 1 ones, so here the rule is k only odd sampling, or I could just sample only the k's which are even, and these are called subsequences. These are called subsequences, and they have the limit. So here the subsequence k with a rule k1 converges to 1, k tending to infinity, and here we say that the subsequence x of k, the subsequence x of k in the limit k tending to infinity with the rule e1 converges to 2. So then these 1 and 2 are called limit points. So the sequence is not convergent, but there can be limit points, that is convergent subsequences within a sequence. Let's take a pause here. All right. So now we saw that a sequence can have need not converge, but it can have multiple limit points. That's one possibility that we saw. Some other interesting properties about sequence are, for example, you have something called as a Cauchy sequence. What a Cauchy sequence means that given a sequence xk, I can find some calligraphic k, and given an epsilon greater than 0, howsoever small that I feel to take it, there exists corresponding, there is a dependence here, corresponding capital K, such that x after that xk minus xm will be always within the epsilon difference, where k is also greater than or equal to capital K, and m is also greater than or equal to capital K. So all subsequent points after that lie with respect to each other within the epsilon distance. So this is such a sequence is known as a Cauchy sequence, and we can show that such a sequence would also be a convergent sequence. Now we can also talk of a sequence which is bounded above. So what I mean by saying this is that I have a sequence xk such that all the values of xk are below certain, so less than or equal to some c. Then I can say that it is bounded above. For example, a sequence 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on is not bounded above. Is it not? It's not bounded above. But you can always say that it is bounded below. Why is it bounded below? Because all xk's are greater than or equal to 1. So therefore it is bounded below but not bounded above. Now you consider instead the sequence like -1, -2, -3, -4. So this is not bounded below but is bounded above. But is bounded above. Hence, when we say a bounded sequence, when we see say a bounded sequence, we mean that xk is bounded on the lower side and on the upper side by the constants, finite constants L and U. Such a sequence is called a bounded sequence. Another thing that we need to get a handle on is, when do we say that xk goes to infinity? When do we say that our sequence of scalars go to infinity, or when do we say that the sequence goes to minus infinity? Either it goes to plus infinity or it goes to uh, alternate way of writing it is that it goes to minus infinity. We say this, for example, that sequence goes to plus infinity if for any m positive greater than 0 that you choose, uh, we can find for any m greater than you that you choose, we can find a capital K such that x of k is strictly greater than m for all k greater than capital K. That means, like if you choose m to be 1000, here not as small as possible. The sequence is trying to go to infinity. So you may choose m as 1000, and then you may find that after k equal to 100, all points are above 1000. If you choose m to be 10,000, you may find that after 150th point, all points there onwards are greater than 150. Or if you choose m as 1 million, then you may find that all points there after say 1000 are greater than million. Then such a sequence is blows out. What it means is that it blows out, and such a sequence will therefore go to infinity. Similarly, you could talk of a sequence which goes to minus infinity. So I leave it to you to complete this, how a sequence goes to minus infinity. So your sequence can go to infinity, or your sequence can go to minus infinity also. Now, when we talk of a vector sequence of vectors, let's move from sequence of scalars to sequence of vectors. So I am now talking of a sequence of vectors xk, where each of them comes from the r dimensional n dimensional space Rn. So now we have a sequence of vectors xn. What it means is that each of these coordinates creates, herein each coordinate creates its own sequence. Okay, so we say that this sequence converges to some x which is in again Rn, provided every sequence corresponding to the coordinates converge to x of I. It is converging to x, then these are the coordinates x1, x2 to xn, and each of it converges to some xi. Then we will say that this system is convergent. Now we can say that this vector sequence is bounded if for every coordinate xi it is bounded below by it is below it cannot go beyond a certain m. Then we can say that this sequence for I equal to 1 to n, then we can say that this sequence xk is bounded, and bounded in this case bound. Since I have put an absolute value, it means that it is between minus m and plus m. So it is actually both bounded below and bounded above. So that's why I have used the term called bounded. For convergence, alternately, we need to say that limit k tending to infinity, xk minus k x, some distance, some norm of it goes to 0. That's the other way of defining it, which means that this induces again a sequence which is given by this, then which is a scalar sequence whose limit is 0. So if this limit goes to 0, then we know that by the definition of norm, what is inside of it also has to go to 0. So therefore each and every coordinate has to converge to corresponding x of I. Now let's look at some interesting properties of these sequences. So let me just look at it. We did sequence, we did convergence, we did limit point, we did Cauchy sequence, and then we talked of bounded sequence. I'm going to share these notes with you, and then okay. One more thing that we need to discuss is a monotonically increasing or a decreasing sequence. More specifically, monotonically non-increasing or a non-decreasing sequence. So a sequence is said to be monotonically non-increasing if xk plus 1 is less than or equal to xk. That's the basic idea. So for example, uh, if I take an example of a monotonically decreasing sequence, it is 1 half 1 by 3 and so on. A sequence like this, 1 by half 1 1 by 3 1 1 by 4, this is not a monotonically non-increasing sequence. This is not a monotonically non-increasing sequence. A monotonically non-increasing sequence could be like this: 1 1 by 3, then again 1 by 3, 1 by 4, again say 1 by 4, and so on. So this is not strictly decreasing. This is but monotonically non-increasing sequence. All right. So this is a monotonically non-increasing sequence, and an important property is, I'll come to that. An important property is that every bounded and monotonically non-increasing or non-decreasing scalar sequence converges. This property is a very important property, and for example, this sequence 1 1 by 2 is a decreasing sequence, and it can be shown like this here, that xk tending to 0. So such a sequence always a monotonically bound, every bounded and monotonically non-increasing or non-decreasing scalar sequence converges. Okay. Now you can also talk of similarly a bounded xk is bounded. I said every coordinate is bounded, or alternately you could say that the length of xk vector is always below some scalar c. And then similarly you can also define a Cauchy sequence for that. And then again we can talk of a limit point of a vector subsequence, provided we can define a rule, some rule on it, such that the subsequence that is generated out of that rule converges to x point. Now I am going to tell you some very important properties of a sequence that we may require again and again. A bounded sequence of vector in Rn converges if and only if it has a unique limit point. So recall that example, like I said, 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. There were two limit points, so the sequence was not converging. So if the sequence is bounded and it is converging, then it means it has only one limit point. You don't have to worry about multiple limit points. Conversely, if it is has a unique limit point, and then it is going to be bounded. A sequence in Rn converges if and only if it is a Cauchy sequence. So therefore, if you show that a sequence is Cauchy, it automatically means that it is a convergent sequence. Conversely, a convergent sequence will also be Cauchy. Every bounded sequence in Rn has at least one limit point. So idea here is like, if I have a bounded sequence in Rn, then from there I can extract a sequence which is either monotonically non-increasing or monotonically non-decreasing, because the next point that I pick up in a bounded sequence, I can make sure that it is either less than or equal to previous point or greater than or equal to previous point, because the points themselves lie within a small band, so therefore I can create a sequence out of monotonically non-increasing or a non-decreasing sequence out of it. And then by previous property, such a bounded monotonically non-increasing or decreasing sequence will converge, and hence we come to the conclusion that every bounded sequence in Rn has at least one limit point. Okay. Now let me discuss the definition or the notion of continuity of, let's say, a univariate function using the notion of sequences. So we have earlier defined, for example, if you recall that a function is continuous at x, a univariate function is continuous at x, provided that for any epsilon which you take greater than 0, you can find a delta neighborhood around x, which is to say that x minus y, this is the y is the point in that is the set of all y's such that x minus y is strictly less than delta. So in this delta neighborhood, you can calculate f of y, of course, and then this distance is less than epsilon. So all fy's are within the epsilon distance of f of x. If you can show that in the continuity, we said that if you given any epsilon greater than 0, however small you take it, if you are able to establish a delta in neighborhood such that for all points in that delta neighborhood, the point is the f of y is within epsilon distance, then we can say that the function is continuous at f of x. And if it is a multivariate function, then all we have to do is change this to a norm value and think of a open ball or a open cube or something like that, and come up with this as the definition of the continuity can still be applied. We can alternately talk of continuity through sequences also. So let us say that fx is f is a function which is defined on from some set S to R, and I take sequence xk coming from this set S. Now this function f is continuous at x if and only if I take sequence xk coming, the xk coming from S, if I take this sequence which goes to x, which limits to x, so for every such sequence xk which goes to x, if I look at the induced sequence f of k, if I look at the induced sequence f of x of k, then this should go to f of x. If this happens, then again the function is continuous. And this is true whether you use it for multivariate function or the univariate function. The idea is essentially the same. We'll use these notions bit later on in the course, but I think I thought I would just introduce this while we discuss the sequences herein. All right, with this we close our short discussion on sequences.